Melanie here with Eyes on the Game in Fight Island, being joined by the one and only, the one who's always here for a good time, Mr. Michael Chandler. Always great to see you.
It's great to be here. Great to be here with you.
Yes. Now, first off, before I get to the business and obviously this upcoming weekend, I have to say I follow you on Instagram. The post you made about your wife, Bree, and the music in the background, it was so beautiful. You're trying to make grown people cry.
Yeah, no, I actually cried a little bit when I was making it. I got a phenomenal friend who has documented my basically my entire career with very high quality stuff, and I told him to pull all the footage so I can cut it all together. So that the song is called The Dream You Never Had by Thomas Rhett, and it's essentially, you know, Thomas Rhett's a friend of mine. He plays music. He's a country star, and he's got a loving, supportive wife. And basically the story behind the song is giving that thanks to that one who is behind you, the one who is beside you, the one who is your rock. This was a dream she never had. You know, she never grew up expecting to marry a professional athlete who was going to be gone often, have a ton of media obligations, raising our child alone often. You know, one of the lines in the song is, "Half of our nights, baby, we spend them sleeping alone." I got to go conversations and raising our kids through the phone. And that's really our life a lot of times. And I'm counting down the hours until I can go. I got chills thinking about it, but I counting down the hours so I can, you know, go get this job done and go back home and see her, love her, serve her, and just take her on dates and enjoy life with her.
Absolutely. And shout out to your wife, Bree. That was so beautiful. And I told the schmo after, I was like, look, you better take notes. But all jokes aside, back to business, like I was saying, looking at this weekend and kind of your expectations for this fight week, was it kind of how you envisioned it going on in your mind?
Yeah. You know, luckily I was here in October. This one's obviously a little bit different because I 100% have a fight. Now, of course, anything can happen. Pray God nothing happens. But last time we knew there was a slimmer chance that I was actually going to fight, but I still had to make weight, still had to do all the media stuff, all the obligations, which was a great way to introduce me. I was right here in this room, you know, in front of the UFC signage, doing all the interviews as if I was going to fight. This time I've made all the connections with the UFC staff, colleagues, coworkers that I'm going to be working with the rest of my career here in the UFC, and so. Got all that done in October. Now they're all familiar faces. Now I kind of know the schedule. You know, as you guys know, how the hotel is set up, how the food is set up, how the workout rooms are set up, time changes, and all of that kind of stuff. It's a lot easier now the second time than, say, even like for, you know, my opponent Dan Hooker, who this is his first time coming here, which, by the way, shout out to him. I just heard him do an interview yesterday. The man is not going back to New Zealand until March. Like, we just got done talking about my wife. I mean, like, if I had to sit in quarantine that long away from them, away from my son, away from my wife, man, hats off to him and all the fighters, men and women out there who are making all these crazy sacrifices during this crazy time to continue to try to fuel their passion as well as just make a living. So.
And you are such a great father, just have to add that. But I know you are a fan of visualization. How do you visualize your fight playing out on Saturday?
You know, the thing that I keep just visualizing is, with great opportunity comes great performance for me. This is the biggest opportunity in my life. I've fought on some big stages. I fought on some big cards with some big names. I've competed at a high level in wrestling, and then competed at a high level in mixed martial arts, championship level in mixed martial arts. But to come over into the UFC, co-main event here on UFC 257 on a Conor McGregor pay-per-view, who, you know, my future hangs in the balance. I go out there and I perform well against Dan Hooker. I could very well be watching my next opponent, Conor McGregor or Dustin Poirier, or possibly Khabib, you know, later this summer, this fall, who knows. But I just visualize myself going out there, that octagon door closing, me biting down on my mouthpiece and going out there and just getting in that flow state, touching them up, doing what I need to do, whether it's taking them to the ground, whether it's staying on our feet, whether it's pushing up against the cage, just trusting myself to go out there and have a great performance, because this is not by accident that I am here. I believe wholeheartedly that God has had me in the palm of his hand since 2009, 3 months after I graduated college, when I fought my first fight down at Lake of the Ozarks, Missouri, in front of 70 people, all the way now until my UFC debut at 34. And at 34 years young, I feel I feel just as good as I was at 24. So I feel like my best performances are still ahead of me.
And you talk about the main event, and also obviously Khabib will be watching very closely. He said a lot of his decisions on whether or not he'll be making a return is if he likes what he sees this weekend. Do you think he'll be making a return?
It's tough because Khabib's got everything. He's accomplished everything he needs to. You know, he's a very simple man from very, very simple, humble beginnings. You know, you don't need a lot of money, a lot of resources, and a lot of connections to live a really great life where he is from. He has very much surpassed all of that. He's a superstar over there in his corner of the world. So if he comes back, it's got to be something intriguing. You know, it's got to be something that's going to challenge him, challenge his champion spirit, because he is the greatest lightweight of all time. He is undefeated. He has looked unbeatable in every form and fashion for so many years. So he's already beaten Conor. He's already beaten Poirier. He's already beaten Justin Gaethje. You got Charles Oliveira. You got myself. You got Dan Hooker, obviously, all of us kind of jockeying for position. If I go out there and do my job in spectacular form, that may entice him to come back. Good old-fashioned, passionate American wrestling versus Dagestani Sambo. That's a showdown that a lot of people might want to see. That's a showdown that maybe he sees as a challenge. But I take him at his word that he was retired. But now I also kind of take him at his word that he would come back. So it's I think it remains to be seen. I saw Dustin Poirier talking about now there's, you know, we didn't get any of those questions answered. It's kind of a gray area whether or not he is actually coming back. A little bit of anticlimactic with the decision. So it's up to us to go out there and do something great. I trust myself to go out there and do something great whether Khabib comes back or not.
But hopefully there will be more clarity after this weekend. Now, the lightweight division, it's always very exciting. And someone you just brought up, Charles Oliveira, he's kind of waiting on the outskirts as well. Do you think that your fight against Dan Hooker takes precedence over Charles Oliveira in terms of how that title picture plays out?
I don't know. You know, you got to look at it, man. We fight for the biggest organization, the biggest mixed martial arts organization in the world. These guys know how to put together fights. They know how to put together exciting fights. They have phenomenal matchmaking. Charles is on a great streak. But I also believe that me coming in, kind of a fresh face, kind of a fresh, invigorating spirit into the lightweight division, the most energized, most hyped up, most deep division in the UFC right now. It's a perfect time for me to insert my name into the mix. It's always tough. I mean, you can think of countless times where the majority of people thought a certain guy deserved a title shot over the guy who actually got it. So you never quite know. All I know is I got to focus on the main thing, which is going out there, performing on Saturday night, and leaving no doubt that I am a force to be reckoned with in this lightweight division.
Absolutely, and we're all excited to watch your UFC debut. Now, looking at that main event, Conor McGregor versus Dustin Poirier, the last time that you and I spoke, you spoke about not being a huge fan of, you know, the extreme weight cuts and fighting closer to your natural weight. Well, their first fight was at 145. Now this rematch is at 155. Do you think that'll play a factor at all?
I think they both, there's no doubt they both look better at 155. They both grown as men and physically. You know, when they were at 145, now you look at their frames, you look at their bodies. I mean, I've continued to put on more muscle mass as I've gotten older. You know, all the young MMA fighters out there, they think they're in their prime at 21, 22, 23 years old because that's what the media or fans have said, that this is a young man's game. I do not think it's a young man's game. You look at every superstar in this sport, most of them are post 30. I think you really hit that athletic prime right at like 29, 30 years old. So now those guys are right in that mix. They're both fathers now. They're both highly motivated. I think we're going to see a better fight. Obviously, you know, you can never count out the fact that Conor can starch anybody in the first 5 minutes, 10 minutes of a fight, but you also can never count out Dustin Poirier continuing to put on the pressure, continue to keep his foot on the gas, continuing to throw punches and bunches, walk down people, put pressure on them that they're not used to. So the first couple rounds will always favor Conor, but the last couple, that last more than half of the fight I think will lean in Dustin's favor. So it remains to be seen. We could see a quick knockout, or we could see a 25-minute war, and I think that 25-minute war favors Dustin Poirier.
And lastly, you mentioned that you thought Khabib is the lightweight GOAT. You're a great commentator, a great analyst. There's always so much debate about who the MMA GOAT is. Who's your GOAT?
Oh, man, it's tough because I am one of those guys that takes everything into consideration. If there's ever been failed drug tests or any of that kind of stuff, I kind of start leaning away from those things. I mean, Khabib, you got to look at Khabib and you got to look at GSP. GSP, of course, is not undefeated. You look at the records. Khabib is undefeated, but GSP kind of had a more illustrious career, and maybe we think he just had a more illustrious career because he's more far removed, and we haven't quite given Khabib that legend status yet because he's kind of in, kind of out, hasn't quite retired yet. I would still have to lean towards GSP, but Khabib is a close second. I mean, looking so impressive. The way he finished Justin Gaethje, you guys were there a couple months ago. The way he finished him, the way he walked him down with reckless abandon, trying to get into a firefight with a guy who loves firefights, and then going out there and finish him. The fight before that, getting a finish. The fight before that, I think getting a finish. I mean, he had a couple finishes in a row. So I would go GSP number one, followed very closely by Khabib.
It's crazy you just bring that up because the other day the Schmo was interviewing Matt Serra, and Khabib actually crashed their interviews and then was saying that he was DMing GSP.
Yeah, I saw it. So he was DMing GSP trying to get the fight or not?
I think that leaves it up to interpretation. Would you like to see that? Or
I mean, yeah. I mean, of course. I mean, it's one of those. It's a tough catch-22. I mean, obviously, as a lightweight in the UFC division, love Georges St-Pierre, but you decided to walk away. We understand that's a huge fight, but man, there's hungry guys here in this division who are because let's be honest, GSP may come back, try to fight for that title, but he's not going to defend the title. And I think maybe they were talking about them coming back, maybe fighting at 170, 165, a catchweight, not for a title. I would rather see it not for a title. Because we know GSP just doesn't have the longevity. Or maybe his heart's not in it to keep fighting, or else he would have fought more over the last, half a decade. So that's a fight all the fans want to see. That's a fight, me, when I take off my competitor hat, put my fan hat on, I would love to see that fight. One of the best MMA wrestlers of all time in GSP, and then one of the best pure, kind of Dagestani Sambo wrestlers of all time going at it. Of course, that would be a big-time pay-per-view.
Who do you think wins that?
Man, I guess it depends on the weight class. Size-wise, I've seen GSP. He's not as big as I thought he would be. I mean, he's not a small man by any means, but he's just not as big as I thought he would be. There's this funny thing. I get it all the time, too. People look at me like, man, I thought you were a lot bigger. We all look bigger on TV than we do in real life, right? So when I saw GSP, he's not a huge frame. He's obviously gotten a little bit older, doesn't train as much as he used to, I'm sure. Khabib does have Khabib might even have a height advantage on him because Khabib's got a little bit taller. That's a tough one. I think Khabib actually might get that one done with his just relentless pace. He's able to keep a high pace for 25 minutes. Nobody stops his takedowns for the most part, and I think Khabib might win that by decision.
But all the fans are looking forward to your UFC debut this weekend. What would you like to tell all your fans?
Man, I just appreciate you guys. Everybody who doesn't quite know me or think that I may deserve to be in the big leagues or coming over and getting this, just trust me. I'm going to step into that cage, and in typical Michael Chandler fashion, I'm going to come across that octagon, and it's going to be an exciting fight. Win, lose, or draw, I come to entertain. I come to fight. So I appreciate everybody who's been behind me and beside me over these last 12 years, and I'll see you guys at the top.